Years ago, when I was just a beginning reporter, I would work as a copy editor at the office of the St. John Valley Times, and I would edit many obituaries. I recall one where an older gentleman came in and dropped off an obituary that he had written on napkins at a nearby bar, and it was about as good as you might expect. And he brought it to us, and I edited it, and I put it in the paper, and it went on, and it was about as good as you would expect. I imagine that there are people who come to this video and they are dealing with a tragedy in their life. And this is a video that I've written for you folks, because if you were trying to write an obituary, it can seem like an intimidating task. And so I have put together this tool and this video to help you to create your own obituaries. And that is essentially the purpose of this video. I want to show you how to create an obituary, how to write one for a specific person in your life or for yourself. And I'd like for that to happen in a fast, efficient, and aesthetically pleasing way. If you are going through that tragedy of a death within your family or within your friends, I have nothing but sympathy for you. I know that it would be in the future from when I recorded this, but at the same time, I feel that time weighing down on you, and I know that this is not an easy moment in your lives. And so hopefully this video will help you to find meaning, to create an obituary that will be useful for you and your family and the friends of the person who has died. So let's get started then. My name's Andrew Burden. I have many years of experience as a reporter and as a writer of obituaries and editor of obituaries. I have received numerous awards in the Maine Press Association, and this is a course that I have taught with senior colleges up in the Aroostook County, and there seems to be a need for this type of class and this type of tool, and that's why I have created this video. So let's get going. First off, we need to recognize what an obituary is. Okay? So an obituary is a news story, and it informs people of the death of someone, and it provides information that allows the readers of that story to participate in the grieving process. It's not a treatise on every moment in a person's life. It is not a way to right wrongs in a person's life. It is simply a story that lets people know that a person has died, and it provides the information about that person and gives them a chance to participate in that process. Now, an obituary has common elements. People have always seen this. You've always seen the announcement of the person's death. You've always seen the listing of the person as survived by, and there always seems to be a bit of a biography of the person within an obituary. And that is the way this works. Right? There are three essential elements to an obituary, and that is the actual news of a person's death, and then you want to recognize the important people who are part of that person's life, and then finally you have the listing of the logistics and all the events that are in and around that person's death. And this obituary is going to create that for you. It's going to help you to gather the information so that you can create it. So before we go any further, I want you to know that you need to go to the website that's on the link below this video. It's machochef.com. There you will find a document for the do-it-yourself obituary worksheet. And this document is what I'm going to be demonstrating in a little while and showing you how to use it to gather information and then to combine that information into an aesthetically pleasing and useful and accurate obituary. So let's move over to my keyboard and I'll show you how this works. Thank you.
All right. When you click on the link below, it should take you to a drive like this. And the thing that you want to choose is the DIY obituary planning sheet. And if you put your mouse over it, right click on it, and make a copy. And then go ahead and enter that copy, because you'll have the right to make edits and things to it. All right. What I'd like to do before we get into the overview of this is I want to go actually to the very end of this sheet. And so let's just move to the last page. Right. And I'm going to make this much bigger. There we go. All right. So these are the final instructions on the last page. What we're going to be doing is taking an obituary, and I've pulled it apart, and I've separated into three sections, and two of the sections each have two parts. And when it all comes together, it's 5 pieces that I call Part 1A, Part 1B, 2A, 2B, and Part 3 that we're going to be creating in this worksheet. And they're just like small paragraphs or a couple of lines, sometimes, and that you'll put together, and you'll just copy and paste them into a document, and then you smooth that document out. And as we're doing this, I want folks to know that you're not going to have all of the information that this thing will ask for, and that's fine. If you don't have the information, you don't have the information. You just leave it out. You work with the information that is available, and this will still create an aesthetically pleasing obituary. All right. So that's going to be the goal. We're going to be making these 5 elements, and we're going to combine them into an obituary. That's the goal here. Now let's go back to the beginning. And what you see at the beginning of the obituary sheet is some instructions on how to approach this process. The thing that you want to do with an obituary, and this is in my before you begin section, is to pick a date by which this obituary needs to be complete. This is an easy task to avoid, and setting a date helps you to get it done. Then it's got some listings for mailing addresses. These are things that funeral homes that you can send in, and if you are making this ahead of time, you can send your obituary to the funeral home for them to update. Or you could, if you are making this for someone who has died or anything, you'll want to send it to news outlets and such. But make a list of the people who should receive the obituary. And you don't have to act on it until you want to, but at that point you have that list and it's available. Let's see, we're going to then it advises you to gather documents, and this is even if you're writing for yourself. Get your resume, get the person's resume, scrapbooks, photographs. The obituary is often available from the funeral home, or a kind of obituary. It's usually very canned, but that's the way it works. I'll look at a person's house, see what diplomas they have, wedding pictures, family pictures, books that are out, things like that. Just something to get a sense of the person's life. And if some of the information is not there, don't worry about it. Again, you work with what you have. And then before you start, I advise folks to sit back and relax and take a deep breath and consider what you're about to do. You're going to be writing about a person's life. And you should consider that person when they were alive, when they were most alive, most aware, most expressing the essence of who they are. And you consider that moment in time. And then after you've done that for a bit, you continue. All right, now the thing that I'm going to do is we're going to look at the various parts real quick. And I think that what I'll do is show these various parts through the example. I think I mentioned that earlier, that I sat down with my mother-in-law. So I'm going to bring up the planning sheet that I used to write her obituary. And so this is, again, it's just the same beginning that we had before, but now I am looking at, there it is, what I filled out. All right, so what we've got here is in part one, it breaks, like I said, there's 3 parts. The first part has 2 pieces to it, part 1A and part 1B. So in part 1A, you're going to be writing the opening line. The opening line of a obituary is often one of the most difficult things for a person to write, because there's a lot of information packed into a very short space. But it's pretty easy to do. So the first thing you need is the name of the person who died, and I used my mother-in-law's name. We made up a date, and which we would change if we actually used this obituary. But based on that, we got her age, we got her date of birth. She told me that. The location of death, if it was different from the place they lived in. So we decided that she had probably died at home if this is going to happen. And you can always go back and change it. The euphemism of death that she decided upon was died, but there are other euphemisms like passed away, told life it was time to move on, left the mortal coil, joined the angels in heaven, left to be with Jesus. Where did the death occur? And we decided, like I said, it was going to be at a home. Cause of the death, and Sharon had me right after serious emotional stress over the 2020 election. And then there's a place here for putting the character of the dying process. Might be, a brave battle, like if the person was dealing with cancer or something like that. That's how you explain that part. Location of current residence, which was Fort Kent, Maine. And then I had her pick a pattern. So I had her, look at an example here of a couple of patterns that I had here. And you take that information that you recorded above and you plug it in to these spots to create these opening lines. Potential opening lines, and you can do the same thing. There's different ways to approach it, but they're all kind of standard cookie cutter ways that you don't have to get yourself all worked up over it. It's okay. And then it has you write your own opening line using the sample as suggested. So you take that pattern and like we did the first one here. Okay, Sharon, 82 of Fort Kent, Maine, died on October 13th, 2020. Well, that came from this pattern. I think we did 3, so no, we did 2. So it was, put her name, comma, age, comma, of, and then location of state or town of residence, which, was state or town of residence, and died on and that was euphemism of death. You know, died on. She died or joined the angels of heaven on date of death. And anyway, you can see how it patterns out. So we just wrote that down, and that was part 1A. Part 1B is a little more difficult, but still fun. Part 1B is the remembrance, and in this you write down 3 words or phrases that describe the deceased. And so when I was talking with Sharon, we decided that she liked the description of dedicated mother, talented scholar, and independent spirit. And then we answered these questions. And what I would do when I approach an obituary is I ask, okay, if I were talking with this person, what are some of the things that they might need to tell me? And how would they want their obituary to appear? And so in this one, this is about how the tenor of the character of the obituary does. She wanted to be serious or funny, graceful, pragmatic, simple. Some people, political. Some people want to do stuff with their obituaries. And she decided that humor is better than funny and pragmatic is better than fancy, was what she told me. Now, what did she want in her life, and what did the person that you're writing about want in their life? Did they meet that challenge? And just write that in a couple of sentences, and that's what I did here. She wanted to be out of debt. What a goal, which I understand. But she also wanted her children to be free of debt, which is really good. 3 events that changed the person's life, and so think about the major events in a person's life, and just write down what they are. Don't dwell on them for the moment. Plus, you're not going to have time to really dwell on them that much in the actual writing, because it's got to be a short paragraph or 2. Things or groups that made them proud. Family, library, and information. She was a librarian. My mother-in-law is a librarian. No, she was. She's retired. Anyway, and she was also a Democrat. Religious belief. Here's a point where somebody can get the religious belief down. And Sharon felt that Jung's collective unconscious was the most understandable depiction of God. What the person's been doing in recent time, and where were they born? And one of the things that I'll do is I'll characterize particular aspects of a person's life, and so and if that aspect could talk. And so think of the wisest person in the extended family. What would they say about this person? And you could write, his family will always, and if you could find that wisest person and actually ask them, but otherwise, make up something that seems willing and graceful. But Sharon told me that her family always knew that she would persevere. Actually, she didn't tell it. I wrote that myself. I decided that I would just pretend that I had access to this wise person. If the community could speak, think about what it would say. And again, I spoke with Sharon, and then I decided to put it in if the community were speaking. And so Sharon decided that she was clannish, that and that everyone knew that she treated her staff and colleagues at the university like her own family, defending them fiercely through all challenges. And then you take those pieces that you have, and sometimes they're full sentences, sometimes they're just bits of information, but pull them together into a short paragraph that just includes some of that information. Just use that as your source material. And you can start this, if you can't think of a way to start it, by, he was born. Because remember, you've already got the information of the death before. So, we know that this is about this person's life. And so you can start it with, he was born. She loved. They wanted. The community will remember her for. He did. As phrases to just open it up, and you can pick anything you want. He was born, and just pick some information. August 9, 1938 in McKinney, Texas. And then you can go on and just say she was born there, and she became an adult. She got her job as a librarian. She did this and that and the other thing, and then just use that stuff from that little interview to write a couple of lines. You don't have to use them all, and you certainly can pull it together later on. But just write it out, and I know that's just what did she do. It's like you started out right here, then you write what did the person do, and you try to notice in this line that I cover a lot of time, but you've only got a small amount of space to do it, and then the rest I use from the material above, where I thought, what kind of a person was she? What did she want? How did the things happen in her life? And notice it's just drawn from the thing that she said up there, and it's pretty easy. And it takes time. I know it's not as easy as it sounds, perhaps, for some folks. But the main thing is to use the material that you recorded in that little piece above. All right. Then you have recognitions, and this is pretty easy as well, but it's complicated at the same time. This is where you have to list the survivors and the people who have died in an obituary. And the way that works is you gather the information. You find the names of these people that are listed here. You want to gather the information. This list should include, there you go, yes, this list should include at least the immediate family who are still living. Be sure to include the surviving spouse, surviving children, and the spouses of those children, and the surviving parents and their spouses. A lot of people include siblings and sibling spouses, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, and closest friends. So, and you just write down. So we started off with her children in order of age, and wrote down their name, wrote down what the relationship was, and the spouse's name. Same thing for the daughter, same thing for the son, and then we went to her sister. So these were the children. Then we went to the siblings and just wrote down their names and spouses, surviving spouses, nieces, then nephews, and this was the way I just organized them that way. Because then, when you're writing it, you're going to begin this section with the name of the person who's died, is survived by, and it's just, this is the standard way you write it, is survived by, and you write down the relationship of that person. So if you're talking about the son, you would write about the son, and then the name of the son, and then the name of the surviving spouse right here. And you separate the groups, like the spouse from you separate the groups like siblings from siblings from children, from nieces, from grandchildren. You separate those groups with semicolons, and you separate the individuals within a group with commas. So you have, if the guy that died name was Don Connery, Don Connery is survived by his wife Bonnie Connery, semicolon, son Ben Connery and wife Jenny Connery, comma, daughter Nancy Connery and Doug Stevens, and son Curly. Wait. Yeah. That's right. So this is the children. So it's son Ben Connery and wife Connery, Jenny Connery, comma, daughter Nancy Connery Stevens and Doug Stevens, comma, and son Curly Joe Connery, semicolon, because we're changing to the group of parents. Parents Pete and Evangeline Connery, brother, and then semicolon, and we change to siblings. Brother Peter Connery and the wife Penny Connery, the other brother Paul Connery, and the sister Blanche. So using that pattern, I did this with Sharon's list from above that I made above. And you can see where the groupings are separated by semicolons. So from here to here is all of the children. And then from here to here, here to here are the siblings. And from here to here are the nieces. From here to here are the nephews. Then we have grandchildren. And you see they're separated by commas within the groups and by semicolons in the larger listing there. It's all just one sentence. All right. Predeceased is the list of the people who have already died, and we follow the same pattern. You get the name of the person, and you get their relationship, and if they have a deceased spouse, you get that person's name as well. But again, you need to make sure that you include spouses, children of spouses, deceased children. Follow this listing up here. It's useful. It's also common to include deceased siblings, sibling spouses, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews, or a friend. And then you format that list in the same way that we did before, and you use the word predeceased. She is predeceased by so-and-so, and then relationship and semicolons and such in the same form. It's usually a shorter list. Okay, then you have the logistics. Oh, and this space right here. Yeah, there we go. Then you have the logistics. And it's just a list of events. Like, you have a wake, you have a memorial, you have a reception. Think of the events that are going to surround this person's death. And when Sharon and I spoke, we decided that if she had died at this moment, that she would probably be doing a Zoom memorial. So she decided to call it a Zoom wake, or a wake viewing with a visitation, and then she would have listed the date and time with special instructions on how to link to it, perhaps. But you just list the name of the event, the date, time, and location, and any special instructions that you might have. And that special instructions might be like parking or something. And she wanted to make sure that we mentioned that she was going to be going for immediate cremation. Then finally, the other part of logistics is the gifts. How do you deal with people who want to send flowers? And the phrase that you use in lieu of flowers. Sorry, let me back up. Sometimes people want to send gifts, and so for flowers, you just use the phrase, please send flowers to, and write the address of the funeral home or the deceased home or wherever you want the flowers to go to. And if you can't think of where the flowers to go to, send them to the funeral home. Monetary gifts. Okay, if you have people that want to donate money, and you do that, sometimes people have a fire, or there's a tragic accident, there's terrible costs that they're having to deal with. And so if people want to do that, you can use this phrase, family and friends wishing to contribute to the deceased memorial services and family service, and the family should and put some instructions for sending a check to an address or a web link for a digital fundraising campaign. And that's how you do it. So Sharon decided that she wanted people to contribute money to the Southern Poverty Law Center or to the UMFK Library. And then you take those pieces and you write the rough draft of the logistics. And the way you do that is you just have in this case we have a name of the event that you have listed upwards, will occur on, and then the date, time, and location that you listed above. and then you have a sentence describing any special instructions. And that's only if it's necessary. If everybody knows what they're doing, then fine. But otherwise, people need to park in the back, or only people of a particular religion are allowed, or some such. Then put some special instructions in there. Following the name of the previous event, a next event, another event will occur, and you just use that pattern, and you just repeat it over and over and over again until you've covered all the events. And then you end with the text regarding the flowers and gifts. In order to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus, there will be a virtual wake, and here's the date and time for it. Following the wake, there'll be a virtual memorial service. Let's see, there will be no public gathering to attend. Send your contact information to so-and-so in lieu of flowers. The family encourages everyone to contribute to the Southern Poverty Law Center or to the UNFK Library. And that's the pieces that you put together. And then you take those pieces and you just copy and paste them into a single document. And then you start working it out. So you print it out, you read it to a friend, you rewrite it, you smooth it out as best you can, and you'll see the stuff where it needs work. And when the person has died, that obituary should be okay. So here's what I did. I took each piece that I wrote above, and I just copied and pasted it into a single document. That's all I did. And then I went back and I rewrote it. And so this is what I wrote in the end, finally. And it works. It's going to be aesthetically pleasing. It's not going to offend anyone, outright. Shouldn't. The piece comes together in an acceptable format, provides the necessary information, and it will do. And it's made by someone who cares for her. So that's how you do that. And now I'm going to go back and in a moment we'll talk about what to do with the obituary when the time comes that you need it. And that's what we'll do.
Then we get to the point where we have this obituary and we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we should do with it? And this is fairly simple because we break it up into two pieces. Either the person that you've written this obituary about is still alive, or this person has died. If the person is alive, then you should consider doing a couple of things, primarily keeping the obituary safe. And the way you do that is you place a hard copy of it in a safe place, and maybe and also a digital copy of it in that same safe place. This is a good time to, if you have like a folder or a list of instructions for what the person would like people to do in the eventual occurrence of their death, you should print a hard copy of this and place it there. You should also put a copy on a thumb drive and place that thumb drive with these instructions. You should also keep a copy of it outside of your home in a safe place, such as a safety deposit box or a cloud storage service like Google Drive or Dropbox. Now, the other pathway that will eventually occur is that the person has died. And this is pretty straightforward and what you would expect, but we've got a couple of extra things that you might want to consider. First, you should take the obituary out and update it with any new information or anything that's changed. You should also send the digital file to the funeral home, and you should send it to the genealogy sites that might be of interest to the people who are mourning, such as legacy.com or ancestry.com. You should provide a copy to regional historical societies that are connected to the person who has died. That's often just part of the effort to record the history of a local area. You should send this obituary to the deceased's contact list, that list that you made at the beginning of this, that list should also be kept with the file so that people will know where to send it. You could also print it on cards as a remembrance for the people who come to the funeral and such. And finally, you'll want to send it to the local paper or to the local news website. Just recognize that when you do that, it will probably cost you a fee that's going to be based on the length of the obituary, but that's normal. And it's not overwhelming, but it's a way to keep the community informed. All right. And I guess that brings us to the end of our lesson. In this, we learned the purpose of an obituary. We learned what the 3 essential elements of that obituary were. We learned how to write an obituary using the obituary planning sheet that you can find on my website. And we also learned how to publish an obituary and what to do with it after we have that obituary complete. I do hope that you found this lesson helpful. And if you have, I encourage you to go to the website machochef.com and make a donation for the time that I spent making this video and creating this worksheet. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments below. I will be answering those questions. There will also be a growing frequently asked questions document that I'll update as people ask questions so that you can look there to see if your question has already been answered. It has been my honor to be your teacher today. And I thank you for your time and hope that you will have great success moving forward. Thank you.